Okay, so this is Sonnet 130, written by William Shakespeare, and it was written to mock or parody traditional sonnet forms which were based on the work of an Italian poet called Petrarch. Petrarch was an Italian man who met a young woman called Laura de Noves and fell in love with her. And during his life, he wrote 317 sonnets, an awful lot, 317 sonnets, glorifying the extreme beauty of Laura de Noves. Shakespeare found these love poems exaggerated, unrealistic, and grossly hyperbolized, and therefore he wrote this poem to parody and I suppose play a joke on Petrarch and show that his exaggerated love poems were silly and cliched, unnecessary. So he mocks cliched declarations of love in this poem. Consequently, the poem doesn't follow Petrarch's sonnet form, which was an octave, the first 8 lines, and then a sestet, the next 6 lines. Rather, Shakespeare divides his poem into 3 even quatrains, that means 4 line stanzas, and then a rhyming couplet at the end. And the rhyme scheme for each of the quatrains is A, B, A, B. So we have A, B, A, B, 3 A, B, A, B quatrains, and then ending with a rhyming couplet at the very end. So again, he kind of broke away from Petrarch's sonnet form in order to show that his hyperbolized declarations of love were unnecessary and idealized. Shakespeare sought to be honest about his loved one and show that though she wasn't perfect, his love for her remained. So the poem opens by parodying one of Petrarch's cliched metaphors, where he would have compared his lover's lips to roses, or in this case her eyes to the sun. Shakespeare opens by subverting that metaphor, saying my mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. So this subverted metaphor goes against or corrects Petrarch's hyperbolized comparisons, and shows that this poem is all about false perception in love and the need for honesty. So the poem actually opens with 4 subverted metaphors, 1 in each line. The first about her eyes, the second about her lips, the third about her breasts, and the fourth about her hair. So we have 4 subverted metaphors, all of them correcting the lies that often come with love. He goes on to use colour imagery then. In the next 2 lines, he says that the red of her lips, again a colour often associated with sexuality, the red of her lips is an inferior red to coral. The white of her breasts, snow, is far whiter, and actually her breasts are dun. And this is a word which means kind of like a brown, dirty colour. In other words, that she's tanned. And of course we have to remember the context of this poem. This was written in the 17th century, when it was much more attractive for women to have pale skin. So that's your AO4 context. Pale skin was deemed attractive, and therefore by saying she has this kind of dirty tan skin, he's saying that she's not attractive, and he uses colour imagery to do that. And then goes on, if hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head, which again supports the idea that this was perhaps Shakespeare's Dark Lady. The Dark Lady was a woman who Shakespeare wrote a number of sonnets about, and she may have been a mistress. She seems to be an older lady, perhaps of ethnic origin, and she's often described in overtly sexual ways. But it's quite clear in this poem that she isn't kind of ideally attractive, kind of the stereotypical imagery of a fair, innocent youth. This woman is much more like a mistress, and someone who Shakespeare is openly criticising. At the beginning of these two lines, he uses anaphora, which means lines that begin with the same word. So it's, if snow be white, if hairs be wires. That anaphora creates the sense that Shakespeare is building an argument against those idealized versions of love. That view that this poem is an argument against idealized versions of love is further supported by the fact that his comparisons now begin to comprise 2 lines each. So this comparison about her cheeks takes up 2 lines, about her breath 2 lines, about her voice when she speaks 2 lines, and finally when she walks 2 lines. So we have these, again, building comparisons in the poem to show that Shakespeare is constructing an argument against idealized love, and that is your key phrase for analysis of this poem. It's a building argument against idealized love. We particularly get the interpretation that Shakespeare is becoming more critical through his actual disparaging comment about his mistress. He says, "In some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks." And he genuinely becomes quite critical and quite hurtful in that that verb reeks, with its olfactory connotations of something smelling really unpleasant. So olfactory verb creates an openly disparaging tone. Disparaging just means to really criticize and run someone down, and that's exactly what he does here. He disparages his loved one. However, he balances that in the next line with, "I love to hear her speak." So there we have a genuine compliment, and that compliment is not based on her appearance, on the aesthetics, it's based on her personality. I love to hear her speak. And therefore we understand that there is genuine love and affection in this relationship. He just doesn't want to have to exaggerate or lie about his true feelings towards her. And the next comparison is particularly interesting because this comparison begins by using iambic pentameter. I grant I never saw a goddess go. That's perfect iambic pentameter as he describes this goddess walking gracefully across the ground. And that is directly contrasted with my mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. That clunky rhythm formed by the caesuras in that line mimics the clumsy, awkward walking of his mistress. So the first line we have perfect iambic pentameter to mirror the graceful walk of a goddess, which is contrasted with the stilted rhythm of the next line, and that awkward rhythm is formed by these caesuras to mimic the more clumsy movement of his mistress. So as you can see, the whole poem has been predicated upon these criticisms of his lover and his refusal to exaggerate her beauty. However, at the end of the poem, Shakespeare introduces a volta, which means a turn in the argument, where he introduces a new thought or a new idea, and that volta is, "And yet by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare." And that means that he doesn't need to exaggerate her beauty, because his love is so rare, so unique, and so perfect that honesty is required. And he uses religious imagery he swears by heaven, uses religious imagery to show how genuine he is being. He creates this tone of complete honesty and devotion. And the rhyming couplet at the end, rare, compare, helps to kind of underline the perfect devotion that he has towards his lover. So even though she is not a heavenly angel, his love is sent from heaven, and is perfect in its honesty.